Um, I'm a bit nervous. I'm very excited to be here. I know the past couple of days weren't the easiest on many of us, especially for those not in Colombo. So I hope what I have to share in some way touches you, in some way encourages you. I know it may not be as easy to listen to, but I hope that it pushes you a little to fall into God's grace and favor. My message is very much inspired by what Pastor D has been sharing, and that's a seat at the table. And as Pastor D has been sharing what it's like to have this seat, what it's like to sit, I found myself having this question just burdening me. If I know there's a table for me, why is it so difficult for me to go and sit there? Why is it so hard for me to accept favor and grace? Why do I just stand there and watch? And I found myself asking this continuously. I thought I should be encouraged. I thought I should be falling into grace, but I couldn't. And so that pushed me into leaning towards God and asking Him, Lord, why am I struggling here? Why am I staying stagnant here? And this is where God brought me all the way back to Genesis, where we read in Genesis chapter 19 on what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. So if we read in Genesis 19, verse 16, NLT version, the verse says, when he hesitated, the men grasped his hands, the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. So a little context here. This place, Sodom and Gomorrah, was a place that was heavily operating against God. They were a country that did not favor Him. They were a place that just did not understand God's love. And because of that, God decided He didn't want this to continue. But He favored a family, Lot, and decided to get them out of these ruins. And in this scripture, it shows that God had favor for them, just like how God has favor for each and every single one of us. But then we read in Genesis chapter 19, verse 26, where the scripture says, but Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. Now this was intriguing to me. I wondered why, when there's something so harsh that's happening back there, why on earth did she look back? And oftentimes, I reflected back at myself and realized I do the same thing. When God is pulling me out of something, I look back and say, oh, but that seems familiar to me. And I'm scared right now, so I'm just going to go back. And so that's what Lot's wife did. She looked back. And that's something we all do. And that's a very scary place to be in. But it's also a place God is not unfamiliar with. He's extremely familiar with. But that just proves our heart condition. Our heart condition stems from a place where we've grown extremely comfortable in. And if this place comes from a nurturing, growing environment, we thrive in it. But when it comes from a place that's out of God's favor, we get lost in it, carried away, and we stay there. And that's where Lot's wife's heart was. Her heart condition grew to a place that didn't favor the father's heart. And so how many of us here look at this table as our heart condition? How many of us misinterpret God's favor for our heart condition? So church, today I encourage you, if your heart is interpreting something that isn't in alignment with God's favor, something that isn't God's love for you, I encourage you to look back and see what favor you have. We all have a God authority, and that looks like the cross. We've all been anointed. And if your table doesn't look like that, there's something wrong. So I encourage you to reflect and look back at the cross and notice and reclaim your authority. Thank you.